Joining us now is assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, Dr. Sona Kazemi. Sona, how significant would you say Iran's signal that it's willing to discuss its enriched uranium stockpile is? How is that being perceived by Iranians? Do they see this as a meaningful concession or just a tactical move?
Thank you for having me. Well, obviously, Iranian people are the number one enemy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And no other actor or party knows this regime better than the people who have been living under this clerical fascism for over 47 years. Obviously, regime is using these negotiations as a tactic to stall further action and to play games with the world powers. And they have become very good at it because this is what they have been doing. Like your correspondent was saying, this is what they have been doing for many, many years, from the hostage crisis in 1979, 1980, until the nuclear program and the nuclear adventures of 2003, 4. Imagine it, how many years, more than 20 years they have been doing this. And obviously, the Iranian people are against any negotiations with the regime, because any negotiations with the regime would be throwing a lifeline for them to suppress, kill, and torture for another year, another 5 years, another 10 years, because we need to pay attention to the fact that the Iranian people are armed civilians. They are peaceful protesters. They don't have any weapons to defend themselves against this regime, except their bodies, except flesh and blood, bones.
I want to talk about the renewed anti-regime chants that we have been seeing in Iran, along with these massive rallies from the Iranian diaspora. It appeared in recent days, following the violent crackdown of the Islamic regime on protesters, more specifically on January 8th and 9th, when tens of thousands of protesters were believed to have been killed by IRGC forces, that, somehow the protests within Iran had died down. There was a lot more fear on the streets, and people weren't necessarily willing to go back out. Now we're seeing a change here. What is causing that shift, and what are you hearing from people on the ground?
Absolutely. So this is the ember under the ashes, right? We have a social movement and a revolutionary movement against this regime since its inception. In fact, 3 weeks after the regime got the power, Iranian women protested against mandatory hijab. So 3 weeks. So imagine it. This is a 47-year-long battle that we have been fighting against the regime. So what happened after the deadly crackdown of this past month, obviously, what we know, the numbers that are reported by medical doctors, is 40,000 and above people have been killed. And we have 8,000 people blinded. We have hundreds of thousands in hospitals and tens of thousands arrested. So obviously, you can imagine the reverberation and the ripple effect that this kind of violence has in society. Everyone knows someone who has lost someone. So there is so much anger. There is so much frustration. There is so much sorrow. This is the Iranian Holocaust. We don't have anything in modern history that shows, that has documented 40,000 unarmed civilians being killed in 2 days. This is unprecedented. So what happened is people went to the streets, they got killed. Now they went back in to absorb the shock and to obviously mourn. But at the same time, the anger is not going anywhere. It is going to come back in the forms of chanting from their balconies or the rooftops, through a new wave of protests and strikes that I personally predict is going to come. People are not going to die down, because there is an ocean of blood between us and the Islamic Republic of Iran, and nothing can curb this distance between us.
All right. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, Professor Sona. Very interesting to hear your take.